I just want to welcome you all to our first in-person salon of 2024. And and only the second one since 2020. We did over 50 of these virtually and thought it would be a nice change to gather together in person. But as you can see, we're recording this so that it can be more accessible to other members of the community in the future. Just wanted to also thank XO Projects, who manage the space, for partnering with us for this event. For those of you that are new here or have never been to a salon before, Wingspace is an organization of theater artists that fosters conversations on design, strengthens our community, and furthers activism in the field. Our salon series is just one of a number of initiatives led by our membership, in addition to our mentorship program. The Wingspace Salon series is a member-produced effort to engage in active dialogue with the field of theater and design. Each salon centers on one or more of the three tenets of Wingspace: design, community, and activism. Over the past few years, we've learned that our virtual salons were terrific in terms of accessibility to a greater community. And as you can see, we're recording this in-person discussion in order to publish it as a podcast in the near future. We welcome new ideas for future salons and feedback from previous salons. So be in touch with us and contact the salon committee at salons@wingspace.com. Our events are paid for from donations and from our members' pockets. So if you'd like to support our salons or future events, please send a donation by PayPal to paypal.me/wingspace. And you can also sign up for our mailing list and donate directly at wingspace.com at the bottom of the page. A couple sort of housekeeping things before we get our conversation underway. I'd like to ask Kate to read our land acknowledgement.
Wingspace wishes to pay respect to the many indigenous tribes of New York whose ancestors have been here since time immemorial. We pay respect to their ancestors past, present, and future, starting with the Lenape people, including, but not limited to, the Moerdyk, Canarsie, Rockaway, Petinacock, and Six Nations. I acknowledge that this city and nation was founded upon exclusions and erasures of many indigenous peoples, cultures, and stories. The foundation of this city and most of its original buildings were built and funded by the sale of enslaved people of African descent. We offer our care and gratitude to the land, water, and air, and are committed to resisting colonialism and imbalance with Mother Earth through the support of indigenous-led programming and collaborators. I will pass it to you for our community agreements.
Some community agreements. Some brief things. Be respectful of others and practice active listening. Speak from your own experience. Assume good intentions, but know that intentions do not equal impact. Practice self-care and community care. Uphold a culture of consent. And we always invite and welcome your feedback, which is one of the ways we can be we can hold each other accountable. And you can always email us, as Lee said, at salons@wingspace.com, or talk to one of us who have these little pins too. We're all Wingspace members. So
Thank you. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce our guest tonight, Dots. Dots is a multidisciplinary design collective based in New York City, hailing from Colombia, South Africa, and Japan. They are Santiago Orjuela-Laverde, Andrew Moerdyk, and Kimie Nishikawa. Kimie. Sorry, thank you. As collaborators, they believe that the whole is greater than the sum of its individual parts. On Broadway, you can see their work, the sign in Sidney, Brustein's Window, Appropriate, An Enemy of the People. Other credits include Oh Mary, Dark Disabled Stories, Public Obscenities, and You Will Get Sick. They also received the Obie Award for the Sustained Achievement in 2021-2022 season. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lee.
So I have a few questions, and I thought I'd go through some of them, but also invite questions from our guests here today.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
But I think one thing that may be unfamiliar to most is your origin story. So I'd love to ask you how you met and where the idea of forming a collective came from.
We all went to NYU,
Yeah.
NYU grad Tisch Design. Santi and Andrew were classmates. I graduated a few years before, but through the NYU community, we were friendly. I mean, I like to say we were friendly, but
Yeah.
not really like tight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then 2020 happened, pandemic happened, and we really just started hanging out on Santi's rooftop and drinking mostly, heavy drink, Casamigos. And we were really just talking about how hard it was and how exhausted and broke we were, just really broke. And yeah, and then it's like, why are we?
Yeah, I think it was like the why are we competing with each other to be sad was the kind of like overarching thing that emerged. You know, we just had a lot of time and a lot of Casamigos, and we were like, why is this so difficult? And I think that was and then we were like, why are we competing with each other for this? When like logic dictates that strength in numbers is a real thing.
Yeah.
And then I think it was just like that moment of pause that gave us, we were like, why don't we reemerge from this moment in a different way and try to like change the way things are done.
And I think also like we were tired.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's something, I think like everybody experienced that, like when the pandemic happened, was like suddenly we have to stop and take a pause and get some perspective on how things were happening before. And I think we realized we're very tired. And I think that was something where like, yeah, we realized so many things. First, like why we're competing to each other, how we can manage to work in a better way, and also really questioning how the industry was not really taking care of us, and how we can do something to take care of ourselves. And I think there's a moment like we admire our work from before, and it was like kind of very organic, like let's just do it without really knowing what the next step was. So we just little learning by doing. Is this okay?
Sorry, I don't know. It's like, sorry, it's dropping. Is that okay?
It's fine.
It's okay. We could fix it. Yeah.
Oh,
No
it's a tape thing.
worries.
We are no strangers to
might
a
need
gaff
more
tape
tape.
solution. Yeah.
It's live
no.
theater,
Yeah.
folks.
I love
Yeah,
this.
nothing that gaff tape cannot fix.
Yeah.
Gaff tape
Yeah.
saves the world.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Gaff Tape.
Yes.
3M.
Yeah, I think that's like, it's that learning by doing thing that's been really our,
Oh, and all
Like,
three of
you
us
know.
are not American, so we're all immigrants here, and we're all on a visa, and that was another thing. We couldn't really apply for unemployment. Well, we could technically, but then if we wanted to apply for a green card in the future, we would kind of be flagged that this person applied for unemployment.
Right.
So then also when so that theater wasn't happening, so we were like, what do we do? I think that pushed us to, well, we have to do other things, like commercials or TV,
Yeah.
and it really pushed us to make something.
Yeah, and I think when we start, like, I always kind of describe dots as like creating an umbrella that take care of us, and I think that's the idea of like a company and like not only the company as an institution, but also like the name, the identity, the logo, the branding, all those things that really help us, which is something that, Andrew, you mentioned that a lot, like when you are working by yourself, suddenly your identity is also your creative value, and at the same time is also what makes you be able to pay rent. So that's kind of, that's hard, because it's hard to like put everything on the same basket. So I think when we put like dots on top of us, it takes care of us, and in a way, like if there's a problem that falls into dots, it eventually is a problem that we have to solve, but in the first instance is the company who receive it. So that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like we kind of like spend the time to like think, okay, let's talk with, we did it with like some of my friends in Colombia, a studio that they help us doing the branding and the logo, and we just had the time in 2020 to
That's
do that,
so
and it was
important, yeah.
something that I think kind of thankful that we had that time because we were able to do it.
It took a lot of effort. I mean, we didn't know the first thing about making a company or business. You know, none of us had a LLC, or I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah.
We still struggle with taxes.
Yeah.
But, right, so, yeah. So
Happy
then,
season.
I talked to my friend who has a scene shop, and you know, so we talked to actually a
Yeah.
couple of scene shops
Yeah.
because they're companies, and just talked to friends. But setting it up took a while. We talked to our accountant. That took a while, and then like explaining to our agents
Yeah.
what we wanted to do took a while, and yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was good that it was, incredibly useful that we just like had the time in that moment to do it. So it was really, I think we just like really saw a gap and took it in a way that was like really helpful.
Was there a specific project or the first project you did as Dots?
Yeah.
Well, I think so. We did like this TV show, like a
Oh, this is the moment for a shameless plug. Yeah, it's finally going to stream, so we're really
finally
excited
on the
about it.
stream,
Yeah.
and it was interesting because I think we did some of the Ars Nova theater,
Oh, sure. Was that
like
the first
home
thing?
theater. I think that was the first one that we
It-
did, like the box, which is like an invite.
I don't know if anyone remembers this, but Ars Nova did this thing, letters, what is it called?
PS. It's called
PS,
yeah.
letters.
But yeah.
PS, yes.
There were some
and
letters.
everybody gets a letter every week, and it's a correspondence between two women. So we actually like
We designed the box, the object
the
itself.
objects, yeah. That was our first.
That was our
thing.
first project that we were like, hey, this is gonna be as credited as Dots. And then we got this film project, which is a TV show. And something that we talk a lot is like, I don't know, the industry here kind of forced you to be like, okay, you're gonna do theater or film. And I feel we kind of tried to push against that because the set of skills exist. And I think in the pandemic, we're like, there's not much work to do, and why we are also like getting limited by ourselves. So we're like, we have the skills to do a lot of things. So we kind of did it, and that was our first big thing, I guess, that gave us some capital to keep working. And
Where is it streaming on, Santi?
it's a new network called Network.
Yeah, I think
I
it is
think.
called.
So meta.
Yeah.
I know, it's so weird.
The show is called The Green Veil. It's really the story is incredibly good, and it's got John Leguizamo in the lead role, and it's really
Yeah.
amazing. We're very, very excited that it's finally
Yeah.
going to see the light of day, because it's really great, and we're really proud of our work
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's set in the 50s. It's like a government conspiracy, sci-fi,
Mhm.
comedy drama.
Yeah.
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were living upstate for almost 2 months. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we were in New Paltz, pretending that
Yeah.
it was Connecticut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your process. Do you have specific roles that you kind of fill for each project or production? Or how do you determine which projects you take on as a collective?
Interesting question. I think our process is like, I think the thing that really like drew us to each other, and I think it's like a thing that we hold pretty dearly is that we try to reject having like a specific aesthetic or a style, and acknowledge that like every story is its own unique beast, and that the aesthetic should come out of like that specific team and the process. And I think we like to think that is reflected in our work, but the thing that is common each time is our process of working. And I think we're really like, I think the thing that drew us together is that we kind of came from that place of curiosity and wanting to uncover an aesthetic and knowing that is a creative thing. And I think because we have a shared educational background, it was like we had a shared vocabulary for doing that. And we always start with
The text.
the text, and then research, and then visual research,
And then the half-inch scale
and then model. Yeah.
Yeah.
and we really do. We are A, unprecious about a model, and B, like super iterative, and we found ways in our studio to be really fast and facile at making them, in a way that we don't, because I think there's also like the risk of like making a model and then feeling like attached to it is something that we also try to not do. So we're always happy to throw it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all do everything. So that's what I would say. You know, there's not really a somebody does the model making, somebody does the drafting. It's sometimes that happens, but that's really just because of schedule, and it's really more because all of us know what's going on. We can all trust each other and delegate. You know, it's not as if there's like a set position.
Yeah.
So like creatively, we are really all in the design conversations from the beginning, and really try to be in constant communication. We have like a WhatsApp group that we just talk constantly to each other every day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very active group.
Yeah,
And
a lot
also
of
something
pictures of
that like
cats. Yeah.
yeah, like mostly stickers.
Yeah.
No, no, but I guess like a checking on each other for like things like how's life, like stuff like we need support to like something like beyond work, but also keep track of projects, just share. And I always say that like something that is amazing and I'm so thankful about Dots is like before Dots it was so easy to get into like a bad idea for an entire week, and you're like, oh my god, this is and take me forever to get out of this idea. And then just we share the same space. We have a studio together where we have our things, and we just like when you have an idea, you share, and you turn around like, Andrew, Kimie, what do you think about this? And you say like, that was a bad idea, and like this, I'm like, oh my god, thank you, you just saved me a week. And that's really good, you know, like having that instant feedback with somebody has like maybe a fresh eye or like a clean or different perspective, not even like better or worse, just a different perspective, and that's very refreshing. And it's very helpful.
Yeah. And we really trust each other, and so we're honest with each other, and we know there's no judgment there. You know, the bad ideas have to come out.
Yeah,
For
to
the
know
good
what a
ones.
good,
Yeah,
to
to
know
know
what a
what-
good
yeah.
idea will be. Yeah. And I think that's kind of filtering into our like process for choosing the work that we do, which I guess being selective about it is a reasonably new thing for us.
Yes.
Emerging from a state of like severe scarcity mindset, that's been like a journey, and our agent's been really, really helpful in encouraging us to do that. But I think that's, you know, when we get offers for new things, we really sit and talk about them and weigh up the merits. And
it's really like are you interested in the people, of course, the team? Do we want to spend time with these people? And then of course the text. But then of course we're thinking about the finances too. But then sometimes it's, well, the 3 Fs.
Yeah.
Fun, fame, fortune. If it's 2 out of the 3, it's probably a good idea.
Sometimes fortune has to trump the other two out of necessity, but we try to at least hit 2 of those. Hit 2 of those things.
And when we say, I mean, fun is fun. Like you like the people you work with is, the pure joy of this. I think it's super important for us. We need to enjoy it. When we say fame, it's not necessarily like fame as we want to be famous or recognized. More about like making connections that you know you are somebody you admire or like that kind of thing. And finance is very like clear. Like, is this actually helping us to pay rent, stuff like that, which is an important part because that gives some like the capacity to be to have how do you say that, like not wealth but like
well, you could breathe. We could breathe.
Yeah, exactly. Like the capacity to like, oh my god,
worried
this
about
big
the
project, and
finances,
so and we have done projects like mostly only for the finance, but that gave us some space to enjoy other projects, which is super important.
And it's also important to us that we pay our assistants a fair living wage. So we pay now $32 an hour, And I mean, that we wish we could do more
Yeah.
theater.
Yeah, but I think that the finance thing of it all is like, it's important, and I think part of why we started this is also just like acknowledging that what we do, even though we love it and we're passionate about it, and I think that is true for most theater artists, but it's what we do is business. You know, at the end of the day, we're still like engaging in a transactional relationship where we're selling our skills as designers, and it like kind of sucks to think about it that way, but it's also a little bit necessary. And I think there is this kind of sense that in the world, because we're artists and we love what we do, that there's some kind of like penalty to that, which is not really something that should be, and is I think something that we really are trying to push against. And I think just like really acknowledging and owning, you know, like other design disciplines, interior designers, architects, fashion designers, they work as a brand, and you know, it's really difficult, and it's a lot to expect of a single individual to do.
Since finance is one of your, pillars, I'd love to learn a little bit more about that, because the contracts and like how the American theater industry works or is designed is really geared towards the individual, independent, contractor model, and the fees are also very much designed for the individual. So I'm curious how that works and if it works,
Yeah, no, it's important, and I actually like that we are openly talking about this, because we have to talk about money. And so, to be really blunt, between the three of us, each of us earned $47,000 last year, so times 3. That's our full year, and then we each supplemented with teaching and other individual things, right? So as dots, that was the income. And then for each show, it's really, we through USA 829, we do a co-design agreement. So, and they are happy to do that. So what happens is that includes the assistant fee as well. So the main design fee and the assistant fee groups into one thing, and they become co-design agreements that are split into 3, and the benefits are also split into 3. And then what we also do is a loan-out agreement, which a loan-out agreement is that we're basically saying to the theater company that you are loaning out the skills of this individual, Kimie Nishikawa, Andrew Moerdyk, Santiago Laverde, from this company, DOTS. So that then through that, they pay us directly to our S Corp. Of course, it goes through our agency, and then it goes through the agency, and then it gets paid into our S Corporation. Then we take a monthly salary. So we do not get a 1099 anymore, because everything is through our S Corporation. And then we also pay our assistants directly. So we're not waiting on theaters to pay, because we are also getting the assistant money. And that's the same for Broadway as well. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think
and
that
when we get project that we get paid, or we see that we have some kind of like capacity, we also do distributions, which are basically, as partners, we just give ourselves some extra money beyond the salary that help us in specific moments, whatever, when we need it and when we can, which is also, I mean, it's important part of our yearly income.
Yeah, and it's taxed at
It's
it's
taxed
taxed at a
differently.
slightly different rate
Yeah.
to a salary. That's been super helpful. And I mean, I think the union and producers and stuff we haven't really come up against any resistance.
No, because they're not paying more.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like, they don't care. Yeah, they don't care where it goes, as long
Yeah,
as it's
Yeah.
and I don't think the paperwork or whatever is
Yeah.
any more complicated. And I think the optics of it, of getting three people for the price of one, ostensibly is, I guess appears like a bargain.
Yeah.
But yeah, we it's just trying to figure out, like, we also say this, we were like, we know we're never going to defeat capitalism, but so we just have to figure out how to make the rules work for us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for the people who work with us also,
Yes.
trying to be as fair as possible. And I think when we say learn by doing is with everything, and I think when we started, it was we had to explain this and what we wanted, people directors and producers and theaters to work with us. And I think now, of course, we have done it for a while and people recognize dots, but it's us learning and the people around us learning with us at the same time, which I think is very nice to see that is kind of well received so far. We haven't really...
Yeah, I mean, an incredible, we've also just been really lucky to work with really incredibly generous directors who are willing to go on that journey, and producers who are willing to go out on a limb. But I think, the proof is in the product, and it's, I think, works out well for everybody.
Yeah.
Just jumping back to process a little bit and directors and the design team, can you talk about how that works in terms of your collaboration with the rest of the design team as 3 but 1 umbrella?
I think it's surprisingly just the same. You know, we're just there. And then also, I think I feel like we make it clear that we're all constantly talking. So even if one, the lighting designer might say to Andrew, something about whatever, the trim of something, but then I don't know, we'll just discuss, or I think at the end of the day, it's just constant communication.
And I think connecting that thought back to process is actually really interesting, and I hadn't really thought about this before, but I think it really is a thing that the 3 of us are in the way we work, definitely iterative, and there's, I think design as a process of listening and absorbing and responding is a thing that I think all 3 of us are really into and passionate about, rather than asserting. And so I think that that's actually really helped us be able to work together in such a fluid way, because it really is receiving the director's impulses, receiving the other designer's impulses, and then us going and beetling away and making it into a response.
And there are some projects where some of us don't touch it, or there's more of a lead, but that's sometimes that happens organically, and then sometimes from the beginning we're clear about that, and that might be dictated by schedule or how much the fee is, many things, the relationship that director has had. But I think what we never want to do is to have the director be confused, or if anybody to be confused of who to talk to. So we really make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and something that a very important element is our WhatsApp group as a channel of communication between the 3 of us, but also our email, because we have our individual email, Santiago at Design by Dots, Kimie at Design by Dots, and Andrew at Design by Dots, but we also have hello at Design by Dots. So every time we start a project, we mentioned that to directors and producers, please always CC hello, because that way the 3 of us get that email. So something that even we can keep track of things, we can know what is happening with the project all the time, which is very helpful. So we are aware about how that thing is moving forward, and also because we also make mistakes, so we can I forgot about that, and we can just call each other hey.
Yeah, and it's way easier to just sub in and switch out, because also life happens, and that was the thing when you're an individual, and then a massive life event happens, and then you're how do I do this and keep working?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, a life event happened to me, and I couldn't work for a month. I just had to quit the opera that I was leading on, and when that happened, I had to call the director and was I'm sorry, I have to leave, but Santi and Andrew can take care of you. And because this was really, it was really late to find another designer. So I think even for the director, it was, I think she felt taken care of, and also it worked out great. And I was so grateful. I don't think if I was by myself, probably what would have happened was all my money would have gone to a associate, or I would never, that, I don't know what would have happened actually, yeah.
Which makes me think about like, is as individuals, like having the right to have a meltdown, it's important,
Yeah.
because, and I'm saying this from a place that like, if you have a moment of struggle, whatever it is, for a breakup or for you getting sick or you have an accident, whatever, that shouldn't affect your entire career. And so you're like, oh my God, like what I'm gonna do now? And I feel like something that I'm extremely thankful with you too and Dots is like, hopefully it doesn't happen that often, but if it happens, we know that we're taking care of each other. And I think something that always remind me like how do we take care of ourselves by taking care of the one next to us?
Mhm.
And I think this feels very important from what we have.
Yeah.
Do you ever disagree?
Everyone always asks that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's like such. It feels like it would. I think people are just like assume like because it's like a three minds thing, but I don't think we've ever really
No.
like.
I mean, we might be like as a conversation, be
Yeah.
like, no, but maybe that's better. It's never like a total disagreement.
Yeah, we've never
It's
had
just-
like a conflict that requires like arbitration. Like we've never been in a situation that like someone's needed to step in, and I think also like 3 is a useful number.
Yeah.
that-
Yeah, but also I think because what we do is like we put the project is like bigger than us.
Yeah.
Like it's not about like what I want. It's like, oh, if you say like that idea, and I feel like objectively like that's more efficient, better, whatever. You're like, yeah. I mean, for the benefit of the project, let's do that, and that's it. And I think like something that is very good is like the ego part of like your name and it's like it's about the project, it's about Dots. It's again bigger than the individual.
Yeah, and I think there's also always the like overarching voice of the director, which is like a really helpful thing.
Yeah. It's like whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes we'll be like, "Do you want that? That's what you want." But then you show it, you test it out in the model, and be like, "Look, that didn't work," and then you show a better idea.
Whatever you want is a bad.
Yeah.
I'm not that cynical, but it's more, but I think we all want to entertain any idea that's
Yeah.
brought up,
Yeah.
right? We have to. We should entertain any idea, and then decide.
Yeah, and the only way to know is by trying
By
it
trying.
and seeing it and being
Yeah.
like, "Cool, that's bad," or
Yeah.
"Wow, that's really great." Yeah.
And sometimes it's like surprisingly interesting, like, oh, I wasn't expecting that to work, and like that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's when we think a lot about like how to find the joy of the process. Like sometimes like, oh my God, this might be a stupid idea, but like we enjoy doing model make. Like we enjoy the model making process. Like, well, let's do it and let's disconnect and do like a little bit like meditation, doing this 100 little baskets, whatever, and then it was like, oh. Well, it didn't work, but like we did it,
Yeah, we did
and
it.
we put ourselves in the exercise.
Yeah, I think Dark Disabled Stories is a really good example of how like all of these things kind of came. Like, we were late in the process, and I was going back to South Africa to see my family for the first time in forever. And then, like the day before I left, the director was like, "Oh, I'm having cold feet about this idea. I don't think it's actually working." We were doing this thing that like felt very like visceral, like a brain, and he was like, "Oh, I think that's actually like totally a misstep. What are we gonna do?" And then you two and he just like toyed it out in the model, and then we came up with that, and like that's kind of how the pillow letters pink. Well, we were always in a pink. We knew it was going to be
always
pink,
pink,
but
It was always pink world, but like the letters.
the letters and the sequin, and like it kind of came out of that, and it was
Yeah.
just like a really organic, easy way that I think. Again, I was like, if it was just me, it would have been like, this whole thing
Freaking
is a
out.
failure, and
I know, you
Yeah,
can't
and the
cancel your
thing is
trip.
like you have a
Yeah.
deadline, then you're flying home for whatever, sometimes for a very valid like. No, I'm saying like even vacations is absolutely valid.
Yeah.
Like if you're going for any reason, and
Well,
then you have to
yeah.
like deal with something, it's like, well, now what? Now I have to be stressed in my vacations. It's like that's
Yeah.
tricky. So I
I-
feel like being able to do that is incredible.
I think personally, like being Dots has made me reinforce the belief that you are replaceable at work. but you're not replaceable at home.
Uh-huh.
I really believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's this expectation that you're always available for everyone in this business,
Mhm.
and you can't tell anybody else what you're, if you're working on a project, you can't tell them that you're working on other projects or you have a life outside of the project.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so, it's just nice to hear that the support that you all have for each other and the values that you support in this business,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can. I think that was the thing, is we were all just like really feeling like kind of alone.
Yeah.
In it, and we were like, there's like no real benefit to that. Like, I think that was the thing, is like we were like, what is the benefit? What are we
Yeah.
gaining? And then it was nice to just have the time to talk about that.
I love my job.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
Mhm.
what are you working on right now that you love?
Tomorrow we're going into tech.
Yeah, yeah, for Three
Or-
Houses at the Signature, which is
Mhm.
exciting. Dave Malloy's new musical. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be great.
It's gonna be
The entire set is present and mostly functional, which for day one of tech is very exciting. I'm grateful for that. What else are we working on?
We're doing Romeo and Juliet, which is happening next season at Circle in the Square. We're just starting the design process for that, which is really exciting. Another new musical,
Oh yeah, the Big Gay Jamboree, which is
Big
not-
Gay Jamboree.
Yeah, which is it's incredibly good and really funny.
Yeah.
It's not been announced yet.
Oh,
so
right, it's not been,
but
so
I think
edit
that's
that,
okay.
We can
edit
edit
that,
that out.
please,
We have
yeah.
that. Yeah.
But
Mary?
we're really excited about it.
Oh yeah, it's transferring.
That's also
Mary.
not been announced yet.
But it's the,
Which is
the
the
worst
worst,
kept
the
secret.
worst kept secret
Oh,
of
Yeah.
the industry.
So I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, Oh Mary is transferring.
But yeah, we're really thrilled. We're really, really thrilled that that's having a future life.
Yeah.
Yeah, the challenge of like scaling up a show that lives so comfortably off Broadway into a much bigger home has been really fun.
Yeah.
And it was like, how do we make these like really stupid design jokes? Like, how do we turn up the volume on that joke without like losing it? We really want the experience to be the same.
Which is very interesting to think about that, because now with Sam Pinkleton, it's such an interesting. I mean, we love him. Is such an amazing collaborator, and it's
Yeah.
something that he reminds us about, like trust the essence of the show, and don't doubt about it, because that was like there's a fear of like we need to prove something else because it's going to a bigger theater. And there's something about the core value of that show that it needs to adapt and just let that language speak in another space. And that means that some stuff need to change and something need to keep. And I think that's kind of like an interesting challenge for us, because it's really trusting the team, really trusting what we did already. And yeah, and that's very lovely. And
Yeah.
it makes me think about, I mean, we're talking about director that we trust a lot, Sam,
we love Sam.
Jordan. We're talking about with like Dark Disabled Stories. It's so lovely when you see somebody that like trusts us and just like bring your ideas and.
Yeah, the one thing I would say about O'Mary is I'm now with the resource. The Lortel is what it is. The theater is so small, and we had to, the challenge of accomplishing 4 set changes in like rapid succession with 0 Wingspace, pun intended, was really fun. And I think we did that in this like really cute way. And now that it's in a bigger theater, it's like kind of easy to do it.
There's
and
so
like-
much space.
So we're trying to make it. We're trying to make it look like it was like still kind of hokey community scene changes, but knowing that So that's the one thing I miss, but that's about it.
But it's interesting because I feel like the Lortel and the limitations of the space lead us to do that design.
Yeah.
And maybe from the beginning we have more like resources or space would be the wrong direction. I don't know, like it's hard to tell, to be honest, but like it's so nice to like see that, oh, what we did because of the limitations is so valuable.
Do you have like a dream project? If you could do anything.
I think I'm doing my dream project.
Great.
Right.
I mean,
Exciting. I don't know. Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know, like
it's-
Beyonce.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a big, like I think like
The Olympics?
The Olympics
Yeah.
is something.
super big scale like pop culture stuff would be really fun.
Yeah.
But I think we really are at a level that it's like really. I think about this all the time actually. That I'm like, wow, we're like doing the thing that
Yeah.
well, personally that I'm like I came to this country to do, and it's very surreal. And a thing that we talk about often, because you know we make it sound like it's sunshine and daisies all the time, but we obviously have moments of difficulty.
Yeah, we cry.
Yeah, like when you nearly break Oscar Isaac's banjo, like you know, this bad stuff happens, and that's a challenge. And then I think the thing when we're feeling burned out or whatever, and then the thing that I tell myself is that I'm like I don't have to do this job, I get to do this job, and that's like an important mantra that I have for myself that I have to remind myself pretty often.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm feeling like I have to do this work, then I'm like, no, you get to do this work.
Yeah.
I think it was the other day when I was like walking we were like walking from Circle in the Square to the Belasco, and I was like walking across Times Square 5 times a day, and I was like, why? And then I was like, no, you get to do this. This is a good thing. This is really exciting. So, yeah.
Yeah, but also I feel like more than a dream project is like a dream circumstance, like actually be able to fully enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe because of course we get like overworked sometime, we get tired, and it would be nice to like do some gardening, you know, like things that you enjoy beyond work. And I think that's like, I think finding the right balance feels like the dream scenario. So I guess it's about like yes, we work an amazing project, and I think it's more like how we can be smarter and like financially is more organized, so we can actually like, oh my god, yeah, I want to have like proper vacations, you know, like see your family, or like taking a break, taking a weekend, like actually like stop working at 5, you know, those kind of things that we're getting better, but still we can get even better with that.
That's great. No, I agree. I love that it's, yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we don't need much
No.
to be happy. Not like, we don't looking to be like millionaires.
No.
We
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
we
Just
we
want a horse.
Yeah, we want
that's millionaire stuff.
Oh no.
a humble horse.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
Like
a pony.
A pony.
Yeah.
No, but it's about like being able to like remind ourselves that we can enjoy what we do as work, but also we can enjoy like the other activities in our life. Like if you like to cook, I hope dots support you to cook.
Yeah.
I mean, at the beginning we were like, when we started, there's something I was always saying like look, if you want to have a family, dots should support you. It doesn't have to, but at some point you feel like in this industry is like insane if you want to have a family, because it's like, how are you gonna pay? Like, well, that's where like the company and the industry should support you, and it's hard just to imagine. And I feel like something that like we kind of say, like whatever is your passion, dots and the industry should support you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's that thing of separating personal identity from creative
Yeah.
work that enables that to happen. That you can like remember that you are a human outside of the work that you make. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, that's one of the best things about what we do, is feeling like me, Andrew, is more than just what I make. Yeah.
And it's your humanity that you can bring to the work
Yeah.
that you make. Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, I think about this a lot, about the experiences that you can have outside of your work as a theater maker are the things that you can bring to your work as a theater maker.
100%. Yeah.
And I guess that's like our value, you know, that's like the differential value that we can bring to the conversation. It's like our background, our own experience. Like, I think like being immigrants is such a, I'm so thankful, you know, like it's such a, sounds like, oh, we have to deal, and we have to deal with things that is annoying, but it's such a privilege to have such a diverse background, you know, like I think like it's I don't know. It feels very New York, it's like it sounds like the beginning of a joke, like a Colombian, a South African, and a Japanese get into a room, and yeah, I mean it's kind of magical.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we do have fun. The vibe in our studio is very
It's
nice.
great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a great workspace and
Yeah.
people. We have a great team.
Yeah.
We have fun. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something I really value here at Wingspace, at our studio, although we don't work on projects together, but like what you were saying about having a person that does what you do, that you can turn to and say, what do you think? And get their, fresh take on it is like so valuable. And something that I could never, like, from the moment I graduated from grad school, didn't ever want to not have, in
Yeah.
Yeah.
in my work. So I can totally understand that. Are there any questions from our audience? Yeah.
Hi, I have one. My name's Claire. I'm an emerging designer, whatever that means. And I'm curious. I have two questions. First of all, what do you guys think is the current state of theater? Like, what are we going to look back on this time period and classify theater as? And how do you think your approach to making theater is going to change that? And at least it's going to change it for you. And if other disciplines built their design processes similarly to the way Design by Dots does it, how would that change the type of theater we make in America specifically?
So, just to repeat for the recording, what is the current state of theater, and what does your process, or how has your process maybe changed how theater is made?
Yeah, what theater you're making
What
and
theater you're making?
how it could change theater as a whole.
How it could change
Yeah.
theater as a whole?
Well, the state of theater, that's such a big question.
That is a really big question. Yeah.
I think, it's recovering. I think right now it's a lot of incubator spaces have closed. The New Ohio or St. Mark's, just so many. I mean, Under the Radar is kind of back, which is great. And I also think it has always been maybe kind of this way, but I think more theaters want to really want to sell tickets now. They really need to sell tickets. So there's so many remounts, right? It's not a lot of new play developments. I mean, yes, it's happening, but I think there's less. So it's bleak and it's recovering.
Yeah.
But I use the word recovering because I do think, I hope, it will, there will be more spaces where artists can make mistakes. Is the hope. I don't know if there are many right now.
Yeah, and I think for me, the state of theater, which is not necessarily now, but it's like the status quo, and it's like a weird thing because it's art making, but it is also at the end of the day like to sell tickets, and it is for even the non-profit theaters like ultimately are like, they're doing it to keep the loop of money to keep going, but the goal is to generate money, and that's always like a weird kind of contradictory thing to work under, which is like I think maybe specifically in the US that's like maybe different to Europe, but it's finding ways, and I think the thing that we're trying to do is find a way to navigate that like art for sale process in a way where you get to keep the love of it alive and keep the art making alive and have it. And I think it's, I don't think setting a precedent for a new way of working was like our primary goal ever. It was really just for ourselves to be like, how can we do this in a way that is like trying to be a little bit less gatekeepy and a little bit less or a little bit more harm reductive based on our own experiences. But I do think now that we've been doing it and that it's I think for us proving to be successful, I hope that it can just set a precedent, not to say like you should work the way we do, but just to say like the possibility of working outside of the status quo exists, and shouldn't be something to be feared, I think. Yeah, and I think that's the hope for me of what we're doing.
Yeah, and also I think there's like this, going back to the status quo, like the idea that as a designer you work as an individual name, like that's how it has been done for a long time. And I think that in our case, it's just like a reminder, like there's so many versions of what we do. This is our version, but there's so many versions of this collectiveness. There's so many flavors. And I feel that like as long people always remind themselves, like try not to isolate yourself in your process and in your creation, it's always important, because I think isolation is kind of dangerous for the individual, for mental health, for the sake of joy. And to be honest, I think like probably for like the quality of art.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the process of sharing ideas, it just makes better art.
Yeah.
Or better mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, and we learn from bigger mistakes, which is kind of like, oh, we did this, it was terribly wrong, but 5 people learn from this, which
Yeah.
you think feels good.
Yeah, and I think it's that precedent thing. Like, I mean, I think when we were starting, obviously, like we talked about Wingspace and we looked at you all and we were like, just knowing that you existed and had like a kind of collective mentality, just knowing that existed in the world totally gave us the impetus to be like, well, why can't we do something like that? And I think it's like really important just to like not set an example, because that sounds like so like self-important, but it's just being like, here is a way, you know. Different ways of doing things exist,
Yeah.
and can lead to good things, and it's I think just being able to being there in the world, I think is like a nice thing, I think. Yeah.
And also like we're always happy to share our experience, you know, like this kind of like spaces, like first thank for inviting, but like also like it's part of like we have learned so many things by doing, and we're never gonna like not share those mistakes and successful stories, because I feel that's the capital that we're creating. And we just try to document it in our probably like our dots calendar, you know, like who knows like where it is, where it exists in the world.
Yeah. Great. Other thoughts? Yeah.
So with your process, working on a project together, are the 3 of you like in every single meeting ideally? Like three-headed Cerberus shows up at every production meeting and every like tech thing? Or is part of the appeal of being a collective to have like hands-on in one place and someone else cooking in another theater at the same time?
Yeah.
So the question was, is Dots a 3-headed Cerberus, and at every meeting together, or do they have different heads in different places at the same time?
I think today is a very good example of that. Like our day today was.
For today, we had 2 production meetings at the same time at 10 a.m. And there was also a design meeting, a model presentation to a director at 10 a.m. So unfortunately, that wasn't on purpose, the scheduling. It just happened that way. So then we had to divide and conquer. But it was great. And then we had a first meeting with the director. All 3 of us went to that because it was our first time meeting this director, and we wanted all of us to meet. And then we had an interview for An Enemy of the People, and all 3 of us went to that. And then I went to therapy. So much talking. But you 2 went to the Signature Theater. because tomorrow tech starts, and like checking in, and had to check in with the painters, and then I joined after my therapy, but I'm not. But for that specific show, I'm not really part of the tech process, but I just wanted to see anyway. And then tomorrow at tech, you will be in in the morning at 10:30, but Andrew's going in a little later because he has to draft the show, and then I'm going in at 3:30 because I have a production meeting at the Atlantic for the Welkin, which is another show. So
Yeah, I guess
that was our day.
Yeah.
But all that to say, like, flexibility is very important. So
Yeah.
I think there's not like a clear answer. Like, sometimes it's the three of us, sometimes it's one, sometimes it's two, sometimes like whatever. Never is none, I think.
Yeah.
It's like someone is present, and I think like whatever is happening, the three of us know what is happening. You know, like,
Yeah.
and we plan ahead. We try to do check-ins all the time. Like, okay, when, I don't know, it was interesting for like March 18th was a crazy week. That
was
like
a week, yeah.
because that was the when Appropriate transferred to the Velasco, and we like, it was like overlapping texts, and not ideal, but happened because it was a transfer. So like from a lot, like months before, we knew that was gonna be a crazy week. So we're just planning ahead and just trying to be ready and strategize how to be there for loading everything, you know, like, and it's just like putting the pieces and just plan ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I mean, really the answer to the question is both. Like, it's both, which is the worst answer, but it genuinely is. And I think we just talk about it's like super situational, and we're like, is this a situation in which all three of us should be there, or is this, because obviously, like, at the beginning of a process with the director, we want to all be there so that we're like on the same page of the dramaturgy of the show, so that we know that if we need to sub in, we like understand what the rules of the world are. And then as things get into the nitty gritty of like production meetings and stuff, then like it's just like not practical or like it's just like not actually like the best use of our time for all three of us to be at a production meeting. So we'll split that, and then like one of us will probably end up managing the day-to-day like nitty gritty of answering the production manager's phone calls and stuff. So it really is super situational. But when it's I would say the general trend is that when it's like the creative stuff, all three of us will try to be there. When it's the like the drier, more management-y things, we'll divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it doesn't always pan out that way, you know. Yeah.
That's true.
Other questions? Yeah. Did you guys, I'm flattered that you guys looked at Wingspace as inspiration, but did you guys also look at other design firms, architects and things like that, talk about other processes of collaboration and partnerships that exist? I mean, because you have obviously architects like Fred Gehry, and then you have real collective architecture firms that work similarly.
Yeah.
Were there other models of the collective that you looked at?
So yeah, I actually I studied architecture and I qualified, and I was an architect for quite a while, and that just wasn't for me. But I had, I worked for like a pretty successful big office in Cape Town in South Africa, and the actual like work wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but I came here and I definitely had that sense of like, what? Like, it's such a productive way to work. And they were a weird, it was like a thing where the name of the office was The Architect, and that's a thing that I don't really love, but it was definitely just being able to see how and that was like a team of, I think they're a team of like 300 now or something, and like understanding how they run the day-to-day projects and how they splinter off, and I think that's definitely been a thing for me that's filtered into the way that I think about work. And even back when I was an architect, my friends and I would be like, can we do this together? Like, so I think for me that's always been a thing. And I think we did. I mean, I think, there's not much in our own industry, not much precedent, but we looked at Rockwell.
Right, Broken Chord,
Yeah.
the sound collective.
The Sound Collective, yeah.
And then Dan Kluger and Lee Kinney had a I don't think they didn't have like a collective name, but I know like Dan would do the composing, original compositions, and Lee was the sound designer, and they worked together a lot that way. So talk to them.
There's also the Sound Associates, I think.
Oh yeah, Sound
Yeah,
Associates.
And also, to be honest, like getting inspired by like other industry, like radically different industry, you know,
Yeah.
like because we always said like architects can do that, like to be honest, like lawyers, like kind of like everybody does
Yeah.
it. Like
Right.
it's I don't know, we kind of
Yeah,
have these
firms, yeah.
firms or like companies or like
Mhm.
they're kind of have collective and they have like they're like corporate organizational way to operate, however that's said. And I feel like we just kind of find our way.
I don't remember that. That was also a 3-person collective, maybe from Barcelona. There was a woman and two,
yeah.
and they made like the fashion installations for Louis Vuitton.
That's true.
Yeah, I
What's the
don't
name?
remember their name, but we looked at some, like through social media, we found some collectives too.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
subsequently we've been like digging into the history of like collective working, and I know you discovered those
Right,
the costume designers from.
Yeah, the Motley Theater Group
Yeah.
were 3 English women in the 60s,
Mhm.
and they had a collective. They were also 2 of them are sisters, and they did sets and costumes, and I think they got a Tony too, but they started also a school, which I think as Devlin was one of their last students, but they were a collective, the Motley Theater.
Yeah, and I remember when we started, when we were like just brainstorming what we were, like kind of like the mission and the vision of ourselves. I think the word agency came a lot. It was like more like how do we gain agency on our actions and how we can like, and I think we kind of said like how do we become an agency for ourselves? And it was like yeah, being able to do what we want the way we want it. And yeah, that word it was an interesting conversation. Like kind of brainstorming and just like drawing on like who are we, how we, in this Venn diagram of ideas, where do we land? And I think that's like, yeah, just like throwing keywords, and we found state of the art. So like we look for other studios, and also like I mean the practical that you mentioned, that we talk with like friends that have seen like scenic shops, and we learned some stuff from them. And I think your experience as an architect was very
And it like totally factored into, I mean, landing on a name and an identity as a collective was like that was a process. And I think we like, because we talked about the word agency, but we didn't want to like apply that to the identity in a way that like, and collective felt so much better. But that even like, you know, we identify as a collective, but it's not in the name of what we do. And I think just like the name, like we love the name, and because it's like kind of vague, and like, and
Who
it's
came
also
up with it?
we did.
We did. We
How?
were all. Oh, we were all
It was also a
upstate
late night. It was
in
a
a
late night
cabin,
situation. Yeah.
and we were all giving each other tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
we were
was
all
like
doing like
very
stick and
pandemic.
poke
Yeah, it was very
tattoos.
pandemic,
I know,
very
it's like so
like
19 years old. Yeah, but stick and
it was very.
pandemic.
I think it was very playful in a way that we need a name because
We needed one because we had the
Greenvale
the
project
Greenvale was
happening,
coming
yeah.
up, and we were
Oh my
like,
gosh,
we need a name.
And
they
then
they
we
need
were-
us to give a name.
Oh right, and we were just doing these 3 dots as tattoos, and
yeah.
then it was like dots.
That works.
Yeah, and also, but it was so interesting because then when we just literally brainstormed the name, we were responding to the name. We're like, oh my god, it's good because dots, like when you add more dots to something, you get like better quality, more resolution. You know, like more, like more dots is better. And that's something that we kind of like always
It was like the pointillism
dream. Like
art.
the line you created like more dots, and we always kind of say that we want to grow and have more people working with us. And I think that's like what happened with like our studio assistants, collaborators, because they are amazing, talented designers that we just have them involved and work with us, and we dream to like get them paid better, you know, like that kind of like fair thing, but also like keep the dots community growing. We always said that our agent is like our most supporting dot.
Yeah.
And those kind of things is very important. I think, again, you're saying like we are good at responding to ideas, and I think like that was like a brainstorming, like a random thing. I was like, oh my god, and then we started like thinking about it and dreaming about it, and then we like, what is the logo? What is the name? What is the all the thing? And the branding came out of that. I think, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was like really, because we came up with like so many ideas, and we were like, we just like don't want to overthink it, and like don't want to like try to be too smart or whatever, and it was just like really felt like it was just like that's
Yeah, it was amazing because you're right, and we just stopped thinking about it for like a week because
Yeah.
it was stressful,
Yeah.
and then it just came up that night.
Which is like, it makes me think again, like the importance of free time. Like all that happened on a upstate trip,
Yeah, there was
going
a hot tub.
out and
Yeah.
like,
There was a hot tub, yeah.
just like going out of town and like, is this the importance of taking a break. And I think sometimes like we forget about it because this industry like just forces to be highly functional and like just, and sometimes like it's good to take breaks. Not only good, but also like very productive.
Yeah.
You know, it's very, take some distance and sleep. And I mean, I'm the worst because sometimes I overwork myself a lot for like, and get stressed about it. But like, but then I feel like, wow, if I sleep now, tomorrow it's gonna be better.
Yeah, or if I like do something fun today, like I'll be in a better mood tomorrow. And, like,
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's, yeah, been really great. And like I think in some of the projects we've been doing lately, have been really good. Like Mary was a really great reminder of like it's actually fun and good and productive to be stupid sometimes, and like that's really great.
Yeah.
And we've really been, and our work with comedians has been really eye-opening in that way, because I think there is a tendency in the theater to just be like so serious all the
Especially
time.
in New York City.
And sorry, that eye
was a
roll will
great-
not, that eye roll will not
Went-
translate
went-
to the
It went
thing.
through.
but-
All the way.
but you know, it's like it's what we do should be fun, and it's like it's just like life's too short to like have an emotional breakdown over like should it be purple or pink, like
Yeah.
and it's really nice to just be like, oh, can one of you just tell me if this should be purple or pink? And usually the answer is really clear and like doesn't need so much like
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which
yeah.
is so inspiring to when we were the kind of collaborator, because I think like our first work with comedians was, I think, Kate, when we did the Kate Berland show with, I mean, we're so lucky to work with Kate and Bo Berman and like this professional and incredible funny people. They were so funny, and like, it was kind of crazy that our first meeting was like literally just like
us laughing at
us
them.
laughing to anything that was happening, and it was like, wow, that was a very productive meeting.
Yeah. It did get, I mean, there were times that it was stressful because they would be like, okay, you make us laugh now. And I was like, I don't know how. Like, that's what you do. And we're like, we just provide walls.
Yeah.
But can they be funny?
They
be
can.
funny.
Turns out they
Yes,
can.
They can
Yeah,
be
we
funny.
figured out how to make walls,
Walls
be funny.
can be funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Put tiny Kate Berlant on it. and
Yeah.
it'll be funny, yeah, but it's been, and I think that's also something that's so nice about doing this together, is that it's really like enabled us to do that kind of different projects that keep the, you know, we've done like miniatures for like a cryptocurrency company, and like we did like a bunch of TV commercials, and it's like those things are also fun, and
Yeah.
like it's just nice to like dabble in different things sometimes,
Yeah, we'll
and
never
not just
do
get so
that.
bogged down.
And I would have never done that by myself.
Yeah.
Right? It's just.
Yeah, we made like a revolving landscape scale model on like a compost
It was a composting
composting
Yes, it was a
machine.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we upcharged quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one or two more questions. Yeah, Louis.
Yeah. Do you think the industry would be better for it were more collectives like your own to exist?
Would the industry be better with more collective work?
I don't think necessarily there has to be more collectives for the industry to be better, but I think we as an industry should think about the industry as one collective. You know, we're all in this together. And so even negotiating for fees or negotiate, you know, that ripples to everyone. and also taking that job with that, I don't know, problematic director, you know, I don't know who, but so like that all, you know, ripples to everyone. And so I feel like it's more of a mental state of, it's not really an ego thing. Like it is a collaborative art form. So
Yeah, I do think, I mean, it's tough to say like what's better, but I do believe that it would be better if there was like not, I think it is difficult when there's like a perceived established way that things should be in terms of making work, and that at any level and at any scale. But I think it's like really, it becomes like so insular, and I think that's like where gatekeeping like really becomes a thing, is when it's like, but that's how we've always done it, you know, like that I think makes things tough and makes it really difficult for new people to emerge. And like, so I do think, you know, I don't know if like the answer to that is working collectively, but I do think it would be better if the status quo embraced like more different approaches, I think is the thing that is better.
and working as a collective, you know, of course forces you to put yourself to the side sometimes and be empathetic, or just be on the support side for the team. And I think that should be, it's just an important skill for any human. So it'll be better.
Yeah, I think it's like also just like decentering the self is always the thing that I think is like, I believe to be better. I don't know if that is the truth, but like I think that helps.
Yeah.
I agree.
Guess the takeaway is be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're talking about like collaboration in theater. I think is really inspiring. I think we can all really benefit from that. But I wonder, like, have you guys ever like collaborated with artists outside of theater or like other disciplines, or is that something you're interested, or just expanding even beyond working with artists? Like, I don't know. I was interested when you talked about being an architect, because that's more like engineer based. And do you take those skills and kind of transform it into theater? Like, how does that work?
Projects outside of theater.
I think that is definitely something we are interested in and try to do. I mean, I think we've just been in like a very the fates have been ushering us into an era of intense theater time, but I think not doing that exclusively is totally something that we want to do. And and like Kate was such a good example of like working with like not necessarily like theater people, and she was making this show that she was like, it's a play, but it's also like not, and like, what is it, and what are we doing? And so it was like, that was really exciting and amazing. I think there's like definitely like at organizational levels and like productivity levels, there are things that I take from architecture, but there's a lot that I like actively, I'm like, I don't want to bring that with me. But yeah, I think we're always like excited and open to doing stuff. Yeah, like there's also which is also like maybe a scarcity mindset thing, but we're like just say yes. Is like
And also like, I mean, we love the craft, like passion, like when we meet someone who has like some passion with any craft, we just admire that, because that's amazing. And I feel like, you know, like it would be amazing to like work with someone who do like, I don't know, lately I've been obsessed with like glass blowing because of the glass blowing reality show. And I'm like, I'm obsessed, and I just like, I would love to meet.
It's really great, yeah.
Like just do it, or like meet someone and maybe one day collaborate. That would be incredible, you know, like, and the thing is like, the skills that we have is like, let's tell a story, and that again, that can come in so many versions. That's like fashion, that's like a TV commercial, or like an event, like a wedding. I don't know. There's so many versions of like an event telling a story, and I think we are absolutely open for that. And to be honest, like, you know, like I love like hosting events with friends, and that's also in some level like a design experience, and you do it, and that's basically how we really start spending time together, just like doing these pandemic parties in the rooftop.
Yeah, with the kiddie pool. It was
With
nice.
the kiddie pool, and just like with the limit of amount of people that we were allowed by law. And it was like, okay, only 40. And like, and that's kind of the thing that was like, well, that's an event. And that's, that you, and we all do it. That's like, that's the thing with like our life is our story, and we just design our events. And like, that's sometimes those are like dinner parties, and you never know who's gonna come and who you're gonna talk with, and maybe that's a collaboration, like a potential collaboration.
That's great. Yeah. One more question. Who wants the final word? Yeah.
I have one more.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just curious about where you see the future of dots, as in if it's outside of you, can it then be passed on? And what are you training your assistants for? Because you know the way that most designers work, it's like I'm training my assistant or my associate or whatever to then go on and do my competition. And I'm wondering how that works. How that works with your class.
That's It's interesting because I don't really think of it as we're training them. No, we're really working together.
Yeah.
And we trust them as artists in their own right. And in a way, part of me is like, yeah, get out of here as soon as you can. Just like go design. So I guess that it's kind of is like competition, but also at the same time, you know, as Santi said, we did name dots as dots because someday maybe there could be more dots. So that's always open. It just hasn't happened yet, timing-wise.
Yeah, I mean, also like at an extremely dry level.
Yeah.
Right now, just like financially, it actually works out. It would be detrimental for an assistant to like join us full time because we don't really have the resources to invite them in because we actually pull quite a low salary.
Because they get paid
So
more
they
than
make
us.
they
really,
make more,
basically.
as an assistant
As-
right now.
Yeah, they
But
do.
the goal for us obviously is to grow to the point where we can do that and invite people on and really grow as a business. But it's just like, and it's been slowly. Today we had a conversation about like how do we, I think we're going to offer move one of our assistants from 1099s to W2s as like a small gesture because she's with us a lot of the time, most of the time, but we know that she would earn less on a salary and we don't want to do that. So it's definitely on our radar, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. But it's totally, I think, a goal, and like being able to pass it on, as make it be an institution that like someone could inherit would be an incredible thing that I would love.
Yeah.
I would love. But
And also, I mean, this is maybe going too far, but like eventually, like when we get old and we retire, like dots should still exist. Like that's something that we like. I mean, it's good that you asked the question because you kind of like now it's more present. Like, okay, it's a very good question that we should like ask ourselves. Not all the time, but like very frequently. Like, okay, where do we want to go with this? Because eventually we want to like take a break. Like eventually we want to like, again, we don't want to work forever. We eventually want to retire. And I think like it going back to the idea of like dots is bigger than us. That's important, and I think that's something that we need to keep asking ourselves that question as we grow.
yeah, and it's really like the limiting factor is really like the business finance model of it all, which is the thing that we're constantly learning and figuring out, and like, trying to figure out how to, as we all know, theater is not the world's most lucrative profession. So finding ways to support ourselves and then grow is, that is certainly a challenge and something that we do think about a lot.
And sometimes it's diversify the action space, like, because yes, theater is not the most lucrative industry, but there are others that they're more lucrative, and we can also do events, we can also do commercial work, like there's so many other things that we can do that will help to like look ahead. But also we don't want to sacrifice our passion, our
Yeah, 'cause we love it.
the thing that we like.
Yeah.
That's the thing, that we like what we do. It's just like we just need to find a way to make it work better for us and for people around us.
Yeah, and figure out figure out the time to sit down. You know, it's like it's a constant like period. Like it's constantly responding and evaluating and reevaluating and being like, this is what's coming in. This is what we need to do out, and those things are always changing. And as we get busy, it's really hard to just like keep a grip on all of that. And we try to make the time to check in about it as frequently as we can. But
Yeah,
yeah.
but that's such a great question.
Yeah,
I think
it's a
we're
really
gonna
good
put
one.
it in our like end of year review.
Yeah,
How
no,
do we? What is your name again?
Claire.
Claire. Yeah. What's the,
Claire's
like,
question.
yeah, Claire's question. Well.
No, it's a
we'll
good
revisit
reminder.
it.
It's a good
Yeah.
reminder.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's been part of a collective since
Mhm.
2005,
Yeah.
And Wingspace is very different in terms of like we're not a business, and the financial aspect isn't as like you know, is much part of it. But something I've really valued as the collective has grown and evolved over time is the new members and the younger, you know, as I've gotten older,
Mhm.
like I'm very different from when we started Wingspace like 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And having the new ideas and the new priorities of, you know, younger people has really kept the collective alive. And I just want to share that because I do think it's a really, it wasn't something that I thought about until much later
Yeah.
thanks.
in
It's,
our
Thank you.
journey. So.
Yeah.
and that's helpful to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for you know, we're you know, we've only been doing this for like 3.5 years or
Yeah.
whatever, so we're like pretty nascent. We're like in a, I think our agent has been like, yeah, he's the best, and he was like encouraging us to not see ourselves as so nascent anymore and be like, okay, you guys are doing this now, so it's helpful for us to just remember.
We're
But I think
still
we're always like,
learning.
we're just like a little baby company.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah, we got audited for workers' compensation. I
God,
was just
yeah.
like having a mini meltdown. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, we're just having a
Yeah,
moment.
the roof will leak.
Yeah, the roof.
Yeah, like yeah, you know, it's a lot of stuff, but it also just like it just like feels more. It just feels like a real thing. Like dealing with the things like the studio roof leaking and stuff. It just like makes it be like, okay, this is like a.
Yeah, and I think it's like
We're a
never
real
not
business.
learning. You know,
Yeah.
like never
Yeah.
assume that we know how to do things because we always gonna learn. That when you say like learn by doing, is like that shouldn't ever change because we should always learn new ways to do things. And yeah, maybe that will come with like eventually younger people. You know, like and sure, we're like, it's.
You're still young.
We're still young.
Yeah,
We're still young.
I said that I was like, yeah, but eventually,
Yeah.
it's good to keep that. I'm saying that's such a good question.
Yeah.
It's such a good question because it's like, it will change.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's the like the theater artist curiosity, learning by doing thing that is like
Yeah.
so valuable, and like it's I think something we all have that, and it's just like really just like being like, oh, I can apply that to any situation.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
for us it was like, well, how do we apply like theater artist logic to like form a business? And sometimes that's totally weird and messy, and sometimes it works out really well. Yeah.
Well, thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful just to hear the dynamic of you all talking to each other, talking to us, and it's so clear that you have like a profound sort of connection. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for inviting us.
Yeah,
this
it's
has been
always
so
really great to say it out loud. It
Yeah.
really, you know, it's great to have to think about it too. Why are we collaborating and why are we a collective? So
Mhm.
it's
Yeah, it's a very,
Very
good
grateful.
reminder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sharing it is really important to us
Yeah.
too. I think like the like left-leaning propaganda machine that is dots. I think is a thing that we're also
yes.
like.
Let me take out my
encourage.
communist
Yeah.
flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just think, you know, I just share so many of your values too, and this feeling that we can still all learn so much from each other in this field is so present, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.